Welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast, where your host, Josh Sweeney, will give you, the business leaders, HR professionals, and company culture aficionados, the knowledge you need to take your company culture to the next level.
Hello, my name is Josh Sweeney, and welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast. Today, we're going to be sharing with you our company values. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Prototype Prime for this amazing podcasting room. If you're not familiar with Prototype Prime, they are a technology co-working space in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, and I recommend that you check them out. So, the Epic Culture values. Why do we want to share those with you? How is this going to be helpful? I think the main thing around this is if you're looking to revamp your values, if you want to take it from that dusty poster on the wall to something that's ingrained into the culture of your business and drives results, that it's really helpful to hear other people's values and not just a listing of the values, but what they mean to that person. And you'll be able to see a lot of this in our company culture check video series on YouTube. But I also want to bring it to you here in the podcast in the form of our values at Epic Culture. So I'll start at the top with our values, run down the list. We have 6 values currently. We're always looking to enhance them or make them better and expand upon them at a moderate rate of speed. Obviously, it's something that shouldn't change very often. But we always are looking for ways to create better values. But our values now start off with the first one, which is uniquely better relationships. Many months ago, I had this question posed to me in a meeting that I was in with other entrepreneurs, and they said, what do you want to do totally different? What do you want to, as a person, what would you like to do that's just separate and different and differentiates yourself as a person? And I came up with this concept of, I would like to have uniquely better relationships. So in a time where everybody's doing software and everything's social and you're sitting at the same table and everybody's on their phone, not talking, everything's becoming very self-service and behind a screen type of scenarios. And I think having a uniquely better relationship is going to be the differentiator for a lot of organizations. So what I mean by uniquely better, just going above and beyond, still sending the handwritten thank you cards, remembering what people enjoy and sending them a gift. Oh, you like cigars? Well, I happen to have these amazing cigars that I brought back from Havana. Let me bring you one, right? So anything that can create a uniquely better relationship. And that's what we talk to our team about is how can we go to the next level? Okay. We ended an engagement. It went well, customers happy, clients happy, or partners happy, whatever it is. How can we go one step further to create a uniquely better relationship? The second one we have is both internal and external in a lot of ways. It's the value is all heart. So what we're looking for in our environment and in our organization is people that are all heart on the topic that they specialize in and on the topic of company culture. So when we are interviewing, we want to know, are they all in? Is this something they're super passionate about? Are they not only passionate, let's say it's a marketing person or we're interviewing for a marketing position. Are they amazingly passionate about marketing? Is that something they eat, sleep, and live? Do they read the marketing magazines? Do they stay up to date? Do they read the books? Or is marketing a job where they go to work and they do marketing? They deliver on their marketing role and then they go home and that's it. Or is it just deep in the heart of who they are? On top of that, and in conjunction with it, is what we do deep in their heart, right? Is it all heart when it comes to company culture? Because we know that that's not only going to be good for retention and good for production and keeping that employee happy, but it's going to be conveyed to our clients. So we want people that are all heart. The third one is something I borrowed, I would say, from Grant Cardone and other leaders, is 10X. So we actually have a value that's called 10X, and it's basically multiply everything by 10. If you have a goal, multiply it by 10, and at least at a minimum, even if you don't think it can be hit, multiply it by 10 and say, what would we do if we were going for it a 10x. How would we change what we're talking about here? So instead of hitting a quarterly goal of X number of dollars in revenue, what if we wanted to 10x it? It doesn't have to be this quarter, but let's 10x it and let's have that conversation. So how do we think of things in a fundamentally larger way? How do we go big? One example of that for us is, we talk to a lot of people. When I started this podcast, I talked to a lot of people that come in this very booth and, they bang out a number of podcasts. And I said, okay, what's my first goal? Day one, we came in and we recorded 24 podcasts. I was in this booth for 8 hours recording those podcasts, and that's an example of 10x. Who do I need to get to help me with this podcast to really crank through them? And even in this recording today, we're sitting in the podcast and we're going to record 16 before we leave at the end of the day or whenever we get them completed. So that's an example of 10x. What is it going to take to go bigger, faster, and get it done? The other thing that I tell our employees and colleagues is 10x doesn't mean we want you to work longer hours. That doesn't mean, you're going to work 40 hours versus 400 hours. We know that's not really possible. And you might actually get burnt out doing that, theoretically. And so with that, we say, 10x isn't about working harder. It's about 10xing and working smarter. What are the smaller tasks that we can find maybe a way to outsource? What are the ways that we can find other ways to do things that we may not be experts in that are going to give us a 10x result instead of really slogging through and grinding through a certain item. So as many of you know, when you take on something new, it may take you 8 hours to do something that it takes somebody else 15 minutes just by the sheer amount of knowledge and technology they have or resources that they have at their disposal. So that's really how we encompass and what 10x means to us. The fourth one is another borrowed one from an organization that I worked at previously, and that is anything is possible. In this organization, this was one of the values that I really took to heart because I do believe anything is possible. I like one of the comparisons of, we send astronauts to the moon on less technology than we have in our pocket, right? So it shows you that anything is possible. And when you realize that anything is possible, it doesn't mean it's plausible. It doesn't mean you should do it. It doesn't mean you have the budget. It just means that it is possible. Let's recognize it. Let's see if we should do it or we should prioritize it. And let's not have any self-limiting beliefs. I think that's another core of the anything is possible methodology or mentality is it's a belief system. There isn't anything that we can't accomplish. The only question is, should we go after that? But we don't come of it from we don't talk about what's possible, but from a place of weakness. We talk about it from a place of strength because we believe anything is possible. The fifth value that we have that I'd like to share is what we call white glove service. So if you're not familiar, white glove, I actually had somebody, I was explaining this to an individual that's outside the country and had to come up with a way to convey this, but it's kind of that concierge level, right? When you go in and you have a concierge and they're wearing the white gloves, or you have somebody serving food and you're at a high-end event, the person with the white gloves, they're the person that's not only helping you and being a servant in that point in time based on their role, but they'll also do anything for you. They'll go get whatever you need. They'll help you in any way that they can. And so that's our embodiment of the white glove service. Go above and beyond for the client and do everything that you can and worry about the rest later. So this is something that we can utilize when we're trying to make difficult decisions, or, maybe we've gone above and beyond and somebody's asking for more. Is that white glove service or is it not? We can make that decision based on our values. The last one is another one. Again, you'll see the theme of borrowing some values or borrowing concepts from other books, because sometimes people just explain it better than I can, or better than you might be able to. So this one is extreme ownership. This actually comes from a book called Extreme Ownership. And I think it's Jocko Willink. I don't want to mess up his last name. But in this book, the concept is that extreme ownership is the concept around that you have 100% control over the outcome. And oftentimes in many organizations, we don't feel that we have 100% control over the outcome. And it's really hard to get employees on board for this extreme ownership concept if they don't feel that they have the ability to make the decisions on their own without some sort of, rebuttal or negative situation that happens because they made a certain decision in the moment. It's all about owning the experience, that extreme ownership level. So what we convey internally mostly is that anybody in our organization can make the decision that they need at that time, and we trust them to make the best decision. Now, if it doesn't work out, we'll talk about how we could have done it better later, but at that moment in time, they own that experience. They own what needs to be done. And I think this is also, for me, a bit of imparting my values and onto the employees that we have, or at least finding employees that share similar values, which is extreme ownership in your life as well. Because if things aren't going well outside of work, then they're probably not going to go well inside of work. And we want our employees to feel like they have extreme ownership of their life, right? It's not, I can't do it because this external thing or this is happening, and you're following world news and all worried about what's going to happen because of some world news situation, which is, if you watch the news, is always pretty bleak. It's really having that extreme ownership and knowing it's on you to make happen what you want to make happen in your life. So I really appreciate you joining me so that I can share our company values, what they mean to us. And I hope that this gives you some ideas on how to revamp yours if you're having that challenge right now. And if not, and if you already have great company values, then maybe this gives you some food for thought on how to convey those values to your team and to your customer base.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Epic Company Culture Podcast with Josh Sweeney. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. For additional content and transcripts, visit epicculture.co. If you have questions or topics you would like us to address or expand on, tweet us at epicculture1 or email at podcast@epicculture.co.